Welcome to the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast, and I'm your host, Dwayne Kerrigan. With 35 years in business and close to 30 ventures across 12 industries, I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Thank you, for being here. So, first of all, recommendation, as we were just talking about, was from a business partner of mine, Stu Saunders, who's been on the show, and then you and I were just kind of jabbing away here before the show, and one thing we didn't get talking about was, I started doing the research on you, and then I'm just I have a scroll of notes here of your past.
You didn't find the porn.
It is did not find the porn. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but you've done a good job hiding it. But honestly, your life is unreal. And I'm just going to kind of glaze and then let you kind of fill in the gaps. But, went to university at Queen's, got a couple of degrees there. You were in comedy theater, stage work, hosted your own comedy show called Monkey Toast, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then, became, and I don't know if I've got the actual chronological order. I'm just kind of roughing into a bunch of stuff because as I was doing this research, like I said, I'm like, how am I going to fit all this shit in? It's crazy. Right. But founder and chief creative officer of your own ad agency called Church+State. And then you're award-winning advertising writer, creative director. You've worked with companies like Intel, Microsoft, Air France, Google, Walmart, just a few of the small guys. Written from, as far as I could tell, I think it's 3 books. The most recent one is The Purpose of Purpose that you just released in 2025. I'm right in the middle of reading that book right now. I think it's amazing. And love the viewpoints on some of the things that you highlight. 2019 wrote Think, Do, Say. And then I think the first book you wrote was Everyone's an Artist or Should Be. And so we'll probably, I'm sure, get into those things. But also named one of the top 10 most creative Canadians, which is that's a cool title. I hope that's on your business card. And then of course you're a keynote speaker too. And so, you speak on things from purpose, growth, AI, uprising, story-based leadership, culture, seizing attention and building trust. And so I just, I don't want to, guys, Ron has done a lot of shit. And so here's one of the things I like the most.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
just
sorry. I'm exhausted.
I need a breather.
I'm exhausted saying it, but I say this, I take great admiration in people who are eating their cooking. And you're in the industry, you're doing it every day. And you're also out sharing the messages and you're writing books and trying to, give back. But that's not your whole thing. You're eating, you're cooking. And that to me is anybody can say stuff, but saying it and doing it are two different things. And so that's my utmost respect to you on that level. Congratulations. Amazing career. I'm so looking forward to having this conversation.
Oh, thanks. How do you top that introduction? That's it's a bit okay. Yeah. No, but thank you. That's very, very kind of you. And I think just on your last point, I think when I left to start my own agency, I gave myself 6 months, and I thought I don't need to do that. I don't need to do this. I can just speak and do that. But I thought for a couple of reasons, that that both would be better if I stayed involved in both. So I would be a better person for clients, working on strategy and creative with clients, if I was out speaking about kind of the latest trends or speaking about the latest challenges to a wide variety of different sectors. And every time I would apply my thinking to a new industry or a new company, that would make me better and just smarter. And that they would benefit from that by me applying that. But also having somewhere to apply the thinking makes me a better speaker, because I think that the tone, there are speakers who will just say things like, you just need to embrace your imperfections or something. They're not wrong. They're not wrong, but that needs to be delivered in a tone where you understand how easy it is for you to say that from the stage, and that applying it in real time in real organizations with real people is a tad more complicated. And so it's not that the content is wrong, but when it comes to implementation, I think you need a realistic perspective on that. And so I was really, you know, focused on doing both better. And that to do it, I needed to stay involved in both.
Well, congratulations. Not easy to do. And you're doing it every day. So I love it. We do have a bit of a time constraint here. So I mean, I really, you know, part of this podcast is I don't show up with any questions. I do the research, and then I let serendipity kind of like grace kind of flood in. So I guess, you know, my biggest thinking is right now is like, where do you want to start? Like, you've had such an amazing career. You talk about so many different things. You apply them day to day in your own business. Where would you like to kick it off? What are the things that right now are kind of on your mind and would be the most important things that we cover?
Well, I think I guess I'll leave it to you. I mean, there's a million different ways that we can, you know, obviously the stuff that I'm speaking most about now is this idea of purpose and what that means and how we got it wrong and then how you can get it right. And so I just come back I just spent the day yesterday with all the store leaders from Best Buy as they prepare for their holiday season in October. And that was really kind of what I focused on there was just like, how do we use purpose, not for PR, but as a path to growth. So that's kind of where I'm spending a lot of my time on. But you could also go like, well, start at the beginning. Like, let's start of like the evolution of this. And like, how does from a career standpoint, how does the world of comedy, like, you know, I was a stand-up and I learned so much from the pursuit of comedy, the writing of comedy, the performance of comedy, not just from a performance perspective as a speaker, but just as a philosophy of thinking and an approach for innovation and personal growth. A lot of kind of the stuff that I'm applying in corporate, I was applying as a comedian years ago.
Well, so here's my instant takeaway on that when you say that. And maybe this is a little bit interesting about the first book that you ever actually wrote, which, you know, everyone's an artist or should be. And what I just gleaned from what you just said was, you know, so much of your past and that creative side of you is impacted, you know, what you do, how you do, and whether it's speaking, business. And I'm just curious, maybe what's your thought around that in terms of, you know, because business people can get in their head. And, you know, there's the saying, once you're in your head, you're dead. And so is there kind of a connection there? I'd love to hear.
Yeah. I think so. It's interesting that you raised that book, because the reason where that book came from was I used to do a keynote called Everyone's a Comedian, or at least they should be. And it's like, what can you learn from the world of comedy and apply to your business, and why comedians, even though that, you know, they're not, most comedians aren't as financially successful as most middle managers. You know, I mean, you can't just go like, hey, we all don't get a cut of Mike Myers' money, you know?
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot that you can learn there. And the reason, and I just wanted to expand the book out to like, well, maybe it's art in general. And as I was doing some of the research for the book, I went to a live, like there was a competition. It was a live painting competition, which I'm not cool enough to know that even exists. Like, and I'm in Toronto. It was on Queen Street in Toronto, and they had 6 painters there live at the Great Hall, and they had a massive crowd of people, and there was a DJ, and it was, you know, and they go, okay, we're going to give you a topic, and everybody go and paint, and then the crowd is going to judge what the best painting is. So these painters they're painting live in front of an audience, like a sporting event. And so at the end of it, I thought, that's really cool. Like, I just haven't seen people develop their craft in real time in front of a crowd like that. And I went and I interviewed all the artists afterwards. And I said, you all are so supportive of one another, but they're your competition. Why are you doing that? Like, if I want to buy a painting and I come to you and I go, I'm looking for a painting, and I don't buy from you, but I buy from this person, well, you're going to lose the sale. And why are you supporting that other person if you know that they're potentially stealing or taking revenue and business from you? I don't get it. And I kid you not, Dwayne, like every single one said basically the same thing, which is, I have no competition. And it wasn't from an ego like I'm so much better than everybody else.
Yeah.
It wasn't that at all. What they said was, if you're looking for a pink painting, and that's the thing that really speaks to you as a consumer, and I do blue paintings, but I know this person, they do pink paintings, I'm going to send you to the pink painting. I'm not going to go, well, what do you want to buy? And then I'm going to create a pink painting out of it, because then it's just a commodity.
Right.
And we're all doing the exact same thing. And what happens in commodity, right, is prices go down, and it's lowest common denominator, or it's a race to the bottom. And so every one of them said, nope, I maintain exactly what I want to do. And if I do what I do and you love what I do and you want to buy it, that's amazing. But the second that I sacrifice my ideals and my pursuit of what I think is true to match up with your desire and what you want to buy, I have lost all my integrity and I have no more business. And that alone, that chunk of the interview, I thought, man, every business leader needs to hear that we do so much in business where we just survey the competition in our category. And what we want to do is we just want to do a slightly different version of what they do. And we're afraid of busting out of the category to do what we think is right in the pursuit of mass. And in most categories, everybody looks the same and acts the same and sounds the same and sells the same shit.
Mm.
And then we're surprised when we have to cut our prices to succeed.
Share with me, based on your experiences then, what would you recommend to people like that own a business that, they need to do to actually step outside, away from what other people are doing, and find their own and have that confidence to say, like, hey, I don't need to paint a pink painting for you. You can go get that pink painting over there. We have blue, we paint blue. I mean, it's a very basic example, but because I think, now people, and we're seeing this in COVID as COVID starts to, like, the COVID coma kind of comes off, and businesses are, it's getting tough out there. And specifically, I mean, in Canada, but I don't think it's different in a lot in the US. The economy is slowing a little bit. You can start to see it. There's certainly pockets that are doing really well, but now and then people start to get this scarcity mindset. So I'm curious how you think this applies and how they would kind of really look at it from a different perspective.
Well, there's two ways in. One way is the person who's starting the business, and the other person is the person who has a business. And I think we have glorified startups so much over the past decade that we treat all businesses like they're startups, and they're not. So that's the first thing, is like, not every business is a startup. And so stop glorifying the startup. And so if you're 6 months away from going bankrupt, well, you have a very different approach to your business than somebody who's got Series A funding and is starting to build something. Like, they're just completely different worlds. So for some businesses, what do I recommend you do? I recommend you stay in business and do whatever the hell you can to stay in business. Chase what you need to chase. Stay in business. And that means that you need to make sacrifices. Now, for most people, they're like, no, I'm in business. I'm good. Like, we've got money in the bank. We have a good product line. We're good. And what we're really chasing is more efficient growth. We're really chasing more profitability. It's those people, I think, where the greatest potential is. And so for those people, I'd say, like, we need to take a step back, and where it starts is, what do we fundamentally believe? I know what you sell. I know what you sell. You know what you sell. You've got a widget, you got a product, you got a service. I know what you sell. Back it away from that. What do you fundamentally believe? And a belief and a purpose is strategically linked to where you make your money. A purpose, corporate purpose, is not like everybody has told us over the past 5 years. "Oh, my purpose here is to save the planet." Or we believe in human rights and equality. It's like, you make a cracker. What are you talking about? Like, this is so far removed from where you actually make your money. Consumers are simply calling bullshit on it. They're calling bullshit on you. They're calling bullshit on your purpose statements. And by the way, it has nothing to do with making your money. And if it has nothing to do with making your money, it's going to have nothing to do with where you make your next money. It is not going to be a path to growth. You are using this for PR to make yourself sound good and feel good. And in 2 years' time, you'll be bankrupt. So it's not that those things aren't important. It's not, of course, human rights and equality. That's your purpose. I hope you believe in that. Really. This is your corporate purpose, to save the planet. I hope you want to save the planet. That's like saying, we here at XYZ Company, we believe in not murdering people. Like, we should pat you on the back for that. No, that is not purpose. That's an expectation.
Yeah.
Everybody has an expectation that you are going to believe in human rights and equality in the planet, everything else. Okay. So that's not purpose. Purpose is a fundamental belief that drives what you sell and how you grow. It is strategically linked to where you make your money, but it is a fundamental belief above and beyond where you make your money. And it's not just that, but it should provide the path for how you will grow next, where you get your next revenue, where you get your next SKU, where you get your next extension. There are way too many leaders and organizations who go, we like to take a bunch of stuff and we throw it against the wall and we see what sticks. It's amazing. And you're like, I'm sorry, you got to be better than that. Like, how endless is your budget? That's your strategic approach? No, you need a path to growth, and path should be the purpose. And so, it starts there. Why the hell do you do what you do? What is your fundamental belief that is driving you? And people will use proxies for that. They'll go, "Oh, we have values. Yes, we have purpose because we have values." And I'll go, "You know what? I thank you for that, new client, but I know what you did. You went to some resort, to a resort that's on a lake north of whatever city you're in. You huddled around a flip chart, and someone goes, we need values, and you're like, I hear accountability is good." You're like, well, right on, Tom. We're gonna write that down. You just do this weird superficial exercise where you just list values that you think organizations should have, opposed to the values that you do have. So they kind of use these proxies for purpose. And again, that's not purpose either. Purpose is a fundamental belief that drives what you sell and how you grow. And so that's where it starts. And that is the path for growth. It is the thing that prioritizes your actions for growth. It is how you, what type of people you recruit. It is your metrics on how you're successful. It defines who you're fighting for from a target. You don't have a target persona or a customer. You have somebody that you're fighting for, somebody that belief fundamentally serves. So I think it all starts there.
So it sounds to me like what you're suggesting is, giving back, contribution, contributing to the world at large, whatever the area that happens in for the company. That's kind of like a standard. Like that, to me, it sounds like that should be a standard among businesses, that there is this portion that of give back and maybe it, like, in a little bit, it sounded to me like what you were saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's that let's not mistake, our purpose for the charities that we kind of support, or how we want to give back to wherever we choose to give back as a company.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to undersell it either, right? Like the fact that, yeah, you need to do those things. Milton Friedman wrote a paper in 1970 called The Social Responsibility of Businesses to Increase Its Profits. And for close to 50 years, we all lived by that. We're like, oh, is there a problem with the environment? Not my problem. I'm a corporation. My job is to make money.
Right.
And we give those money to shareholders with shareholder primacy. We give those monies to shareholders, and they can take that money and they can solve the problems of the world. Not my problem as the corporation. That was in 1970. 2019, Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, comes out and goes, if you're not, kind of involved in helping your community, we don't want to do business with you. Sorry, that was 2018. 2019, Business Roundtable comes out and goes, we don't have one constituent as shareholder, we have 5. Like, yes, we have our shareholders, but we have our customers, we have our employees, we have our suppliers, and we have the communities in which we operate. So, yes, the very nature of business changed almost overnight, where it was like, it is not about shareholder primacy and shareholder value. It is about articulating a purpose that serves the people you're fighting for. Fundamental beliefs that drives what you sell and how you grow. It is, of course, behaving as a responsible corporate citizen, where your fundamental belief extends to the 5 constituents you have, not just the one. Now, here's the great part, because I know some of your listeners out there, Dwayne, are like, well, shareholder value isn't the objective. Then doesn't that make us all not-for-profit organizations? No, because if we focus on purpose and execute against purpose, what do we get as this glorious little side benefit? Shareholder value.
Right.
But if we say our only priority is shareholder value, we will do all the things we did. Like we're cutting to 10% of the salary. We're manipulating the numbers so that we were just going to deliver shareholder value. And we do it in the short term because that's our metric. And what do? We kill the business in the long term. We named Jack Welch Manager of the Century because of his approach to shareholder value and shareholder primacy. And in 2018, GE was removed from the Dow 30.
Right.
Killed the long-term business. Great book by David Gillis, The Man Who Broke Capitalism. So I think it's, and I don't remember who wrote this line, but I just saw this yesterday, and it was like, it's not about, like, the win isn't who's winning this race. It's last man standing. This is long term. That's why we're here. And so if we focus on purpose, we will be around for the long term.
Sorry, the 5 constituents. I just want to make sure that our audience gets those: customer, shareholder, partners, community,
and suppliers. Yeah, because there are people, the suppliers are the ones they often get left off, because we go, oh, well, those are the people, like, we're a client to them. And so they should just be happy that they have our business. Another way to look at it is like, well, sure, you're their client, but they are the people that help you do what you do. And let's not kid ourselves. The end consumer is paying for the whole ecosystem. Like if I buy this, this cell phone stand, well, the cell phone stand has a factory that makes this, and they may say, like, yeah, but that factory, they're just a supplier to us. Like, no, I'm paying for the factory. You're not paying for the factory. I'm paying for the factory. You're taking $2 of my dollars that I paid $5, and you're giving it to them. I'm paying for it. You're not paying for it. Right. You're just shuttling it from me to you. So let's not kid ourselves. It is one ecosystem that the end consumer pays for everything. It's just back-end accounting on who gets what. And some of those people are employees, and they get a cut of it. And some of those people aren't employees, but they're shareholders, or they're suppliers. So I think we need to, it's an entire ecosystem, and some people are formal employees and others aren't. It's just back-end accounting.
Yeah, no, and you see this in a lot of big businesses. Like, I have some friends that work in, we'll call it the food industry, and where these big companies that they work with, like their approach is so vastly different, where, they're one company, I'll just say company X, I don't want to use their name, but company X is always, trying to get the best deal, squeeze them out, pinch them, the returns and the cost just flow back down. And then the other ones who are like, okay, you guys are our partners. You need to be sustainable. We need to make sure that you win, we win, because if they don't win, then now they don't have a supplier, and then the whole ecosystem collapses, and then the customer suffers in the end, and the team members suffer. And that's my summary. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Like if you look at Walmart, and Walmart was a client of ours for 5 years, and this isn't telling tales out of school. Walmart's core purpose is that we believe that when you can save money in a wide variety of places, that your life is better. Your life is better because you can save the money and apply that money to things that really are enriching to you. And so part of Walmart's responsibility is like, look, because we believe that, we're going to do everything in our power to save you as much money as we fundamentally can. And so we're going to choose suppliers who can allow us to fulfill our purpose. And so I tell you, when we would go to Walmart, and every supplier knows this, you better bring your own pen. They on behalf of their consumers, they are not buying pens so that they can give it to you. And by the way, we don't want to be, we don't want anybody to come in and buy us coffee or buy us muffins, because that would be seen as, well, potentially then you want to make up that money in other places. You have to make up that money in other places by charging us more. So no, you cannot show up with coffee and muffins. You cannot buy us lunch. So I respect that. Hey, this is what we fundamentally believe, and we will do everything in our power to reinforce that. Now, if that corporation does that and says we're going to screw our suppliers, but we're going to pocket the profit, well, that's when maybe it's not the consumer's best interest that they have at heart. It's their own. Right. And that stuff just falls apart eventually.
So for the listener out there, like that's struggling with really kind of identifying, because I think you're touching on like some really, I personally think some really quality conversation in regards to companies who are there to identify what the real purpose is and get confused along the way that it should be for this higher level, like you said, save the planet type of kind of, approach. Can you walk me through let's walk through for an entrepreneur who owns their business. Let's say they're, make up a number, 5 million in revenue. And they just they know they need to create that for the next level of, vision for their company, buy-in for their team. Like we're all moving in what oars are in the water. We're moving in the right direction. We're not paddling left and right. Can you help me so this can be really tangible? Because I really do believe that a lot of business leaders get stuck in this area, and I think it would just add tremendous value.
Yeah, I will. I think that, and you're right. I think that where a lot of leaders get stuck is they get stuck in this outdated. It's like, hey, everybody, put the MBA textbook down. Okay, because what a lot of senior leaders, they just end up spinning their wheels, and they go, we got our mission, we got our vision, we got our North Star, we got our purpose, we got our BHAG, and all they do is crank on stuff, and you're like, when are you going to do something? When do you actually get to the part where you're going to build this business?
Right. Yeah. Well, then how do you get this to execution? Like you have all this, I don't want to say bullshit, but you've got all these things, and it's like, well, how do we drive that into execution? Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. Like when I started my agency, I called it the Tite Group. And people were like, what was the brainstorming activity about how did you come up with the name? I'm like, my name's Ron Tite. I just call it the Tite. It took me 2 seconds so that I can move on to building the business.
Yeah.
And eventually, once we had a better idea of what the business was, then we're like, let's rename this thing so that our name reflects what we fundamentally believe and do on a daily basis. Yep, that was it. But it started with, well, let's just get this thing going. So this is the very tangible thing for people to take away. Forget all that other, the mission, the vision, the north, but simplify it. Because at the end of the day, growth will occur when everybody in the organization fundamentally understands what you fundamentally believe and what you do to reinforce it. And we end up with all these terms. And by the way, when you write the mission and the vision and the North Star and the stuff, you do it with a flip chart with 20 people in a room. And so what do you end up doing? You end up doing this group think, right think, where you end up with these statements that mean nothing to no one. They sound great. They got every buzzword in there as possible. But this is what happens. Your team, whose frontline employee goes, our mission is to, like, they can recite it because it's been beat into their head, but they have no idea what it means to them as a human being. They have no clue what they're supposed to do with it and how it's supposed to guide their own behavior. So this is what everyone should fill out. Just these 3 statements. We believe this, so we do this by doing this. We believe this, so we do this by doing this. That's where it starts. So you can articulate, start with the do if that's easier for you, which is like, what do you do in your heart of hearts, in your core foundation? What do you do? And if that's what you do, then what do you fundamentally believe that goes beyond that, that feeds into that? And what's the unique way in which you deliver that? Or what are the 3 ways that your organization is completely set up to do this? So the words that are really important there are the so and the by. Because if you say, we believe in human rights and equality, so we make a cracker, it doesn't work. That doesn't connect at all. So that's a sign to go, like, your purpose has nothing to do with where you make your money. We believe this, so we do this by doing this. Then when we look at growth, we just ask ourselves a simple question. Knowing what we know about the competition, about our target, about the world that we're involved in, what else should we do? Like, what else should we do to make that amazing? So, the example that I use in the Purpose of Purpose is the Savannah Bananas. And the Savannah Bananas kind of came in with a very fundamental belief. And the fundamental belief was that we believe that there's a better way to do everything. There is a better way to do everything. And they started with a baseball team. And they're like, how do we make baseball better? And it's such a great example because most of us live in categories, and we live in categories where we think we have to abide by the rules of the category. That we're like, well, this is how they do it in this category. And if we want to live in this category, we have to do it this way. And the Savannah Bananas went out, and it's literally baseball. It's like there are rules, 9 innings of play, like 3 outs. Like, there are fundamental rules. And Jesse Cole went to the other owners, and he said, I've fixed a bunch of stuff. They're still not coming. I'm telling you, we have a massive problem here. The massive problem is that we're not competing against other baseball teams and other sports. We're competing against the internet. And that is way more exciting. So I recommend we cap the games at 90 minutes. And how did they react? They reacted the way most established business leaders react, which is, what? That is not how we do things around here. This is baseball, and baseball is supposed to be long and boring. And so what did he do? He started his own league. He left the category and said, I have a fundamental belief, and I'm going to serve the people who share that belief with me, and I'm going to make baseball exciting again. And he fundamentally changed the rules. 90 minutes. That's it. Game is done. He was like, hey, and my favorite rule change was if you hit a foul ball into the stands and a fan catches it, you're out. Like, that's amazing. Now, he is, by separating himself from the category, he is no longer competing against them. He's the artist who has created a unique painting, and he knows that the baseball traditionalists, they're not going to go to his games. But you know what he's got? He's got 2 million people on a wait list for tickets to a Savannah Bananas baseball game in Savannah, Georgia. He did a tour of 10 major league ballparks that drove an incremental $12 million in revenue. He was on Jimmy Fallon 3 weeks ago. So, I think it's just such a great example of starting with a fundamental belief, knowing exactly what you want to do, have a unique way you do it, and just continually coming up with new ways of reinforcing that belief. driving incremental revenue, driving more profitable revenue, and driving additional SKUs. And so now he's going into other sports. He's got other teams. Like, the model is working.
Right. So I feel sometimes, and maybe this is even my own projection, but some people struggle to see the vision in their own business. They can go, "Oh yeah, that makes really sense. That makes sense for Savannah Banana. It's a really cool story." If we were to take an industry, you could pick, but how would we, like, can we just give the audience like a quick blip on what a industry, like whether it be construction or restaurant or retail or whatever it is, and just kind of walk through that model? Because I love, like, we believe this, so we do this by doing this. So, did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a pool company. You're a pool company. You install pools. That's what you do. And so you sell pools. So what do? You provide the best pools for people. So, that's at your heart of hearts what you do. Okay. What do you fundamentally believe about that? Do you believe that the backyard is the best place for families to be? Is that what you fundamentally believe? You believe the backyard is the best place for families to be, because that's where family moments are made. Do you believe that the best part of summer is cooling off? Do you know what I mean? So there's two completely different fundamental beliefs about the exact same product. Now, if we believe that the best part of summer is cooling off. So we manufacture and install the best and most appropriate pools for those people looking to get summertime refreshment. And we do that by investing in technology to make the water as cool as possible, training our technicians to ensure that they deliver a really quote unquote cool experience, and by having a lifetime guarantee so that clients always have the pool that they want. So we believe this, so we do this by doing this. Mm-hmm. And that's if you think that the best part of summer is being cool. When you go, well, what else could you do? Like, what other things could you do? Oh, well, you could make freezies. Like, you could make fans. You could make misters. You could do all these things that help people stay cool in the summertime. Opposed to, if your fundamental belief was, we believe the backyard is the best place for family memories. So we manufacture and install pools into clients' backyards, by customizing the installation to get the best use of space in someone's backyard, by training our technicians to, yada, yada. There's just some three things that you could do there.
Yeah.
Two completely different beliefs about the exact same product. And then if you go like, well, what else could we do to reinforce that? Oh, well, you could make fencing that makes the backyard amazing. You could make toys for the pool that makes the backyard amazing.
Fire pits, music.
Fire pits. You can make a playlist on Spotify on the perfect backyard playlist for the summer of 25.
Yeah. Lighting.
So, and you may not, where I see why people think they need a vision. And I get that, because the great part about a vision is like, this is where I'd like to become. I'd like to become this type of company. And what is great about having a vision is that you can see, this is where I am and that's where I want to get to. What are the steps I need to take along the way to get there? The problem is, if you don't have a fundamental purpose that, can provide a pathway, then I don't know that your vision is baked in reality. Because until you go, we believe, like you would say, we want to be the best pool company in the world. That's typically a vision statement. We want to be the best pool company in the world. You're like, what are you talking about? When you started with the purpose, we talked about you selling fans and selling misters and selling it. Like, that's not what that's about. You should be about wanting to be the best cool company in the world, or you want to be the best backyard company in the world. And so I think sometimes we apply we put barriers on our own thinking of what our vision can actually be. So if we do it right, I like the idea of vision, but I just think most people get it wrong.
Yeah, no, I get it. It seems to me, and like, so for people who are listening here, it's like you go through this belief process that you just explained, and thank you for that, because I think it was extremely valuable for people who get stuck in this area. But then you can really quickly see, like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, where the belief, you begin with belief, and please correct me if I'm got this completely wrong, but you start with this belief and you create this mechanism, or really what you are creating is a belief statement. And then that belief statement leads ultimately to the purpose, because then the purpose now becomes is like, well, you're creating environments for families to get together and build lasting memories forever, which at the end, and then, you take that to the way out to the end, is like, well, what are the things that you're going to remember when you're on your deathbed? It's not the money you made. It's not the business deal you did. It's not the, it's the times that you spent with your family. So now you have taken belief to purpose. And that to me is the big correlation of what you're explaining and what you've put in your books.
Yeah, you're bang on 100%. And what's interesting about that is, like, for some places, there's where origin story can play a huge role in that. So, why did this person start this pool company? When we work with clients, we'll ask them those things. Origin stories are really important. So why did you start a pool company? You can start a million different things. And sometimes you'll hear people go like, you know what? I just loved spending time with my kids in our backyard. It was just such a great sense of family, and other people from the neighborhood would come by because we were the only ones with the pool. And you go, well, there you go. You have the fundamental belief. That's the reason you started this company in the first place, or the reason the founder started the company. Let's dial into that. Let's talk about that. And when we do stakeholder interviews, because, if it's a larger organization where the founder is no longer involved, or it's a publicly traded company or whatever, and we need to, get at the heart of these things, I think a lot of people will go and they'll want to get the inputs from the people on their team. But what they end up doing is they end up asking them strategic questions. What do you think our belief should be? What do you think our core strength is? What do you think are, like all those things? And people are too savvy now with what those questions mean, and they'll give us the answers that they think we want to hear, but there's not baked in anything. So if you're doing stakeholder interviews to get feedback and input from people, what you should be asking them about is stuff that's really specific. Tell me about a time where you had the most fun at work. Tell me when you're coming in on Sunday night and you got to show up on work on Monday morning, what are you thinking about Sunday night? And when you have those conversations, you really start to get at the heartbeat and the soul of an organization. If you ask them the strategy questions, you'll end up with bullshit superficial answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting down to the real heart and emotion of where people are. That's what I'm taking from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
What we actually, and arbitrarily, we talking earlier about, and I made the comment of, like, you get in your head, you're dead as a business owner. Where do you feel people stumble through this process that the belief purpose process? Where do you think they get stuck? And what would you say to them to help them kind of release themselves? Thanks, guys, very much for listening to that show. First and foremost, I want to thank Ron Tite for being on the show and walking us through that real lived experience and process of what a couple of companies would or have done about that belief and purpose, creation process. So critical. Guys, thanks for listening. We broke this down into 2 shorter podcasts, 45 minutes a piece, because there's just so much like lived content there, and it was coming so rapidly. I have 5 pages of notes. So tune in next week for the rest. You don't want to miss the conversation. It's just a fantastic a learning and a teaching and education process for what Ron talks about. So thanks very much for listening. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. God bless. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you being with us. If you found value in the show and know a friend or a coworker who could benefit from the conversation, please share the link via text or on social media. Remember, each share creates a ripple effect of knowledge and inspiration. We'll see you next week.
The views, information, or opinions expressed by guests during the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Dwayne Kerrigan and his affiliates. Dwayne Kerrigan or the Dwayne Kerrigan Podcast is not responsible for and does not verify the accuracy of any of the information contained in the podcast series. The primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified professional or specialist before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.